My mother turned white and trembled. She's become a monster too. We looked at the window. The boards and curtains blocked the red light. But Auntie was hanging out, snapping at the glass with her fingernails. Sis, I've discovered a pattern. When one monster comes, it's bound to attract more monsters. We have to get Auntie Chando. My brother climbed up. He's got guts after a few days of getting used to the scary atmosphere. I'm busy throwing him the black claw I prepared. Cover your eyes first and follow my command. My brother mustn't see the red moon. He nodded, blindfolded himself, and lifted the fire extinguisher. My mom kept telling us to be careful. I told him to go right. Right, good. It's close to the curtains, I said, covering my eyes. Pull back the curtains. Spray directly. Don't hesitate. There's a gap between the boards. The fire extinguisher can go out. I heard my brother answer. Okay. Then he started spraying. The fire extinguisher made a sizzling sound. Then Auntie Chan screamed. She fell. My brother immediately pulled back the curtains and came back with the fire extinguisher. It was as if nothing had happened. I was so excited. The fire extinguisher worked. It won't burn them like the sun, but it can repel them. In the days that followed, we survived night after night with boards and fire extinguishers. On the 6th night, my mom held my hand, encouraging us to hold out one more night. It was our last night. My brother and I nodded our heads. Maybe it's because it's the last night. The monsters were on the rampage. There were monsters outside the door, outside the balcony, outside the windows. Neighbors, enjoy the moon. You're the only ones left who haven't seen the moon. Come out, come out. We were scared to death to hear all these horrible noises. We've never been under this much pressure before. They're all here. They're crazy. My brother was shaking with the fire extinguisher. He didn't dare to move. I was in despair. The thrill of being on all sides was too deadly. The monsters are going to come in. We were discussing what to do, but at the same time, there was a sudden silence outside. Whether it's the hallway or the balcony or the bedroom window, it's all quiet. The monsters were silent. We all looked at each other and our fear increased. What happened? Suddenly there was a knock at the door. A hoarse, tired voice. May, open the door. My mom's pupils were in a state of shock. She stood up almost immediately. Alan, I couldn't believe it. That voice was my father. My brother grabbed the fire extinguisher and ran out. My mom and I ran to him. But when we got to the door, my mom suddenly shouted, Wait a minute. Don't open the door. My brother's hand stopped twisting the door. He looked back in confusion. My mom was in tears and shaking her head. It's not normal. It's not right. My heart skipped a beat. Yes, it's not right. My father, who'd been missing for 10 years, suddenly came back. All the monsters have suddenly gone quiet. It's nighttime again. How did my dad avoid the moonlight? He's probably already seen the moon. May, open the door. I'm back. My dad is still knocking. My brother took a few steps back. The back of his head was sweaty. My mom wiped her tears and asked in a shaky voice, Alan, why did you come back? I came back to show you the moon. My father's words came out of nowhere, and his voice was extremely low. We all looked at each other in shock, thinking we'd heard wrong. Dad, what do you mean? I thought you couldn't see the moon. My brother's voice was sobbing. The fear he'd been feeling for days was too much for him. We have to see the moon. Our mission has failed. To survive, we must submit to the ancient gods. My father's voice grew hoarse. What mission? I asked with difficulty. The Man-Moon Landing Project. It was actually to stop the resurrection of the ancient gods. But it failed. We can't destroy the moon. We can only coexist. My father's voice was so sad. I asked again, what ancient gods? The moon is an ancient god. An eyeball that's been sleeping for billions of years. Now she's opened her eyes. An eyeball. The moon is an eyeball. The eyeball is the so-called ancient god. What kind of creature is this? Alan, I thought we'd just have to survive for 7 days. What's going on? My mother's focus is still on the 7 days. Yes, she is. Tomorrow, the ancient god will sleep again. But she'll come back to life. No one knows when she will come back. We must become her followers. Listen to me. Come out and see the moon. If you become a believer, you have nothing to fear. My father kept knocking. He continues to persuade us. We'll go crazy if we look at the moon. My brother argued against it. I'm here. It won't. I was the closest thing to the moon. I've gazed at her from the space station. I'm her greatest believer. I will protect you. My father smiled softly. He had a strange sense of honor, as if he was proud to be recognized by the moon. My mom and I looked at each other in shock. My brother gripped the kitchen knife and shook his head at us. He didn't trust my dad. My dad seems to have gone crazy too. What has he been through in the last 7 days? What's he been through? Hey, Dad. Wait. We'll get out of here. I responded to my dad and calmed him down. Okay, I'll wait for you. My dad responded softly. I ran and grabbed the fire extinguisher, and I signaled my mom and my brother to do the same. They each grabbed a fire extinguisher. We retreated back to the bedroom, back to back. The bedroom was the safest. We already hung a blanket over the window to keep out the red light, and we've taken down a stool to seal the window. I decided before, if the house is breached, the bedroom is our last base. We're going to hold on to it. Are you coming out? Come on, let's go. My dad's urging. There's a hint of anxiety in his voice. My dad's pushing again. His tone is clearly not soft enough. My mom was in tears. She realized my dad was really crazy. It's almost time, Dad. You'll have to wait a little longer. I responded by actually locking the door. Okay. My dad kept waiting. Soon he became more anxious. Why isn't he coming out? Come out and look at the moon. Come out now. My father shouted. This time my father wouldn't wait. He knocked hard on the door. Come out. Come out. You have to believe me. Alan, we accidentally locked the door. We can't open it. Wait a little longer. My mother cried. My father was quiet for a moment. He kept knocking on the door, with more and more force. Open the door. Get out of there. His voice was kind of like a roar, and it scared the monsters in the building. There was a lot of screaming going on. Come on out. Look at the moon. Neighbors, come out. We're coming. Let's look at the moon. The monsters are moving. I think my dad gave the order. A few moments later, the gate was slammed, but it was too strong. It's hard for the monsters to break through. There's movement on the balcony, in the kitchen, in the bathroom, everywhere else. A monster is breaking through the windows. Why don't you believe me? Why don't you believe me? My father's word triggered the monsters' anger. They were angry that we wouldn't look at the moon. I heard the boards of the balcony crack. Too many monsters had hit the boards. There's no way they can hold it. There's no way the security net can hold it. And the sound of breaking glass. One by one, the windows were broken. The three of us were sweating profusely, aiming fire extinguishers at the bedroom door. We must hold out for 3 hours. Daylight will come. My brother used the fire extinguisher first, then my mom. And then I used it. We only have 3 bottles left. The fire extinguishers must be distributed wisely. The clothes and blankets are all here. We can't do it. We'll light it. My brother gritted his teeth. In this desperate situation, he doesn't care about fear. It's not wise to light a fire in the bedroom. It could start a fire in the whole house. It's not a balcony, after all. But when it came down to it, it was necessary to light a fire. I'm coming, neighbor. Look at the moon. Crawling noises outside the bedroom. There's already a monster crawling in. He's got us pinpointed. He's heading straight for the bedroom. The bedroom door is wooden, but it's very thick. A monster can't knock it down. It's true. The monster hit the bedroom door many times. The door didn't move. But gradually, more and more monsters came in. The whole living room was filled with a numbing sound. The bedroom door shook violently. My brother stood at the front, staring at the bedroom door. The door cracked open. An exploding bloody hand came in. Hey, hey, look at the moon. Then my brother sprayed the hole. The smoke from the fire extinguisher billowed out at the monsters in the living room. One by one, the monsters screamed and backed away. They were forced back. My brother was trembling all over. And when they came back up, he used the fire extinguisher again. 7 times. His fire extinguisher was at the bottom. My mom's face is white as a sheet. My brother's going to grab the clothes and blankets, ready to ignite at any moment. The clothes and blankets must be kept away from the fire extinguisher. Otherwise, they'll get stained and won't ignite. Time went by. When my mom's fire extinguisher ran out, I'll take over. That's when I heard my dad's voice. Neil, why don't you trust me? Dad wouldn't hurt you. He was still standing outside the door, and the hall was full of monsters. Dad, 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 Dad. We were just about to go out. They're stopping us. Help, 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 I shouted. My dad let out a strange roar. The monsters backed into a corner and didn't come into the bedroom. I took a moment to catch my breath, and my dad urged, "Come on out. Get out of there." My mom started to cry again. It was hard for her to accept that my dad was crazy. We were like this for 10 minutes. My dad suddenly became furious. Why didn't he come out? As he roared, the monsters came in a frenzy. I used a fire extinguisher to push them back, again and again. But soon the fire extinguishers ran out. It was still an hour before dawn. Sister, get out of the way. I'll light it. My brother rushed up, lit his shirt on fire and threw it through the hole. The monsters screamed and backed away, but they came right back. I even saw it. I even saw one of them fall right on the flames and put it out with its blood. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. My brother cursed. He lit more clothes on fire and threw them out. And the door caught fire. The flames started. We were backing away, knowing we were in trouble. And to make matters worse, the window burst open. A whole bunch of monsters were coming through the window. I set fire to my clothes to force them out of the window. My brother fought the hall monsters on both ends. The fire was extremely deadly. The smoke wouldn't go away. The whole bedroom was filled with smoke. We were choking on it, and we got vertigo. It's over. In a few minutes, we'll suffocate. Alan, I'm going out. I'm out. My mother was on the floor screaming. It was sudden and determined. May, come out and look at the moon. My father laughed. Then there was a roar. The monsters faded again. The ones by the window slid down. I took the opportunity to lie down by the window and breathe in the air outside. My brother rushed over to get some air. The window was completely open. There's a gale outside. The wind was pouring into the bedroom and the smoke was billowing out. We've survived. Neil, Nigel, take care of yourself. My mom was on the floor. She was crawling out of the house little by little. The bedroom door was still on fire. But she didn't care. She crawled out through the fire. Mom? I rushed over to her. She shook her head. Go back and watch your brother. I stayed where I was. Tears streamed down my face. May, get out of there. My dad was still shouting. My brother was furious and wanted to rush out with my mom. I hugged him and cried. Don't move. Don't move. My mom disappeared in the blood and limbs. I couldn't see her in the darkness. All I heard was a lot of monsters licking around her and telling her to look at the moon. The door was unscrewed. My mother opened it. Helen, I'm coming. My mother climbed out. Look at the moon. Look at the moon. Look at the moon. My father's voice was filled with tenderness. I tried to look out, but all I could see was a tall, dark figure. My dad was standing in the hallway waiting for my mom. They were reunited. Then, the sound of footsteps. My dad took my mom by the hand and walked towards the roof. My brother and I were tearing our hearts out, but all we could do was cry in our bedroom. And the monsters left. They went to the roof together. My dad was probably the leader of the monsters. Look out the window. The red light isn't so strong anymore. I didn't even notice it. In hindsight, I feel my head exploding and shaking. It's starting to get quiet around here. The sound of the monsters crawling around has thinned out, but I'm sure the whole roof is full of them. They were probably on their knees, worshipping the moon. The moon is an eyeball. The eyeball is the ancient god. I counted the hours and hoped for dawn. As the sound of falling buildings continued to rise, there was a little white light in the sky. It's light. At last. The 7th day had passed. I cried with my brother. Mom must have jumped. We waited until the sun came up. We went up to the roof right away. There were no monsters on the roof, just blood and limbs. We looked downstairs. The ground was thick with corpses, mutilated, stinking, bursting, twisted, and folded. The monsters were all dead. My brother and I couldn't bear the sight. We fell to our knees and vomited our bile. My brother even fainted. I dragged him home, holding back my grief and nausea. Then I ran downstairs to find my parents. In the sea of corpses and blood, I vomited and searched and finally found my mother. She had fallen to her death, and there was no father by her side. Mom! I cried so hard I couldn't stand it. I don't know how long it took. One after another, the living appeared. There were only a few dozen left in the whole neighborhood. If I hadn't come up to cry, they might still be hiding. The dreadful end of the world tormented everyone. 2 days later, an army arrived. My brother and I were taken to a bomb shelter in the next city. There were thousands of survivors. Everyone was shivering. I was numb. I just sat there and didn't say a word. Until a woman in uniform found me. She said she worked with my dad. Something touched my heart and I burst into tears. The woman told me many things, including the ancient god of the moon. Billions of years ago, ancient gods existed on Earth. They are creatures that cannot be named. No one knows how they appeared. They've been involved in many of Earth's extinctions. The most typical extinction of the dinosaurs was caused by the eyeballs. The eyeballs are a pair of ancient gods. One of them fell to Earth and destroyed the dinosaurs. The other fell into the sky and became the moon. The woman's words were shocking. I had to believe it. What about my father? My lips were trembling. He's the head of the Ancient Gods Research Center. He used to get up close and personal with the moon. Now he's disappeared. According to his notes, we can analyze it. He's gone to look for the other eyeball. The woman answered. Is he crazy? I asked again. Maybe he is. He always said the gods were watching him. He's the chosen one. He must be crazy. Women look at me. If he wasn't crazy, the ancient gods wouldn't have chosen him. He can't find the other eye. Only if he finds the other eye and destroys it. The moon will sleep forever. Those were the last words the woman told me. And then she left. I sat and cried, thinking my father's not crazy. But he had to be. He's a spy. He wanted to show the ancient gods how crazy he was. It's funny, it's sad. 3 months later, the world is returning to normal. But everywhere was sparsely populated. We were concentrated in one city, and we knew there were no more than 100 million people on the planet. Too many people died. This is what the gods did to the creatures. Just like the dinosaurs, each of us began to fear the moon. Every night, everyone hid and slept early. Never dared to gaze at the moon. But I was different. I sat by the window every night, gazing at the moon. That's the damn ancient god. But why is she so beautiful? It's beautiful. End of story.